13th station of the cross, Jesus is removed from the cross. During my lifetime, I've been present for many deaths. Some have been peaceful and some have been tragic. The one thing that is clear about all of them is the finality of the moment. As Charles Dickens put it in his Christmas classic, A Christmas Carol, Marley was as dead as a doornail, and this must be understood. Death brings about an indisputable end to life as we know it. Across from the Blessed Sacrament Chapel is a piece of art that depicts this station. Jesus' body is limp and elongated as his lifeless body is slowly removed from the cross. The words, "It is finished," fit all too well. This is the image of this station. It is the finality of the moment. Life does not exist here anymore. Jesus is dead. Now transition yourself from looking at this station and imagine you are one of the followers of Jesus. You are Peter, the one tasked with building the church, or you are Andrew, or John, or Bartholomew, and you left everything in life to follow Jesus, and this is how your day is ending. This was not how they imagined their journey with Jesus would end. Up until this point, there was still hope. But now, what hope is there? When Jesus was beaten, there was hope that justice would prevail. When he fell, not once, not twice, but 3 times, there was hope that the dramatic ending was coming. Even when he was nailed to the cross, there was still the slightest ray of hope that he would come down. But now he is dead. What hope is there as they watch Jesus being removed from the cross, limp, broken, and without life? The station conveys Dickens' clarity. Death is as dead as a doornail. This is the darkest hour of the Triduum, because all hope is removed. There is no going back. It is so bleak that the soldiers whose job it was to confirm that the crucified are dead didn't even need to break his legs. Normally, as an act of mercy, the legs of the crucified would be broken, so they couldn't hold up themselves any longer, and their weight of their body would cause suffocation, and they would die more quickly. Crucifixion is so brutal that an act of breaking a person's legs seems like kindness. Then, in the midst of all of this darkness, there is a sign that comes forward. As we read the story, the grief and sense of loss is so overwhelming that this one sentence can be overlooked. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once there came out blood and water. What does this mean when we say blood and water flowed from his side? We expect blood to flow from a living being, but it said blood and water. If you go back to Genesis 15, you can read about the covenant God established with Abram. Abram was promised an abundant life, but years later, he still had no children, and Abram had no reason to believe that one day he would have descendants as numerous as the sands of the seashore. It was at this moment in time that God tells Abram to bring him a 3-year-old heifer and a 3-year-old she-goat, and to cut them in half. A sign of the covenant was to pass through the 2 halves. But in this case, there is something that goes unnoticed. Abram fell into a deep sleep, so he was not the one who walked through to make the covenant, but it was God. God sealed the covenant with Abram. The reason I'm bringing this up in the covenant is because we know it was fulfilled. Abram became Abraham, and he had Isaac, and Isaac had Jacob, and Jacob had many sons, and Jacob's sons became the 12 tribes of Israel, a great people. God fulfilled the covenant. As brutal as that story is on the surface, why is it so important? It is important because the author of the covenant is the one who passed through the two halves of the animals. A part of the covenant is the one who walks through the two halves and is saying, if I don't keep this covenant, may I be like these animals, divided, broken, and die. Breaking the covenant means death. The only one who could fulfill the covenant was God, because God was the one who did the covenant walk. The second half of that little noticed sign is the pouring out of water. Blood you expect to come from the pierced side, but not water. It was from the water that the people received their exodus from Egypt with Moses. Water flowed from the rock as the Israelites wandered in the desert and sustained their lives. John the Baptist baptized with water as a sign of repentance. We see water as something that cleanses us, and it does. Jumping back to the 13th station, we see Jesus being divided and die. His blood has been spilled, and the old covenant has been fulfilled, even if it cannot be seen at that moment. Today, we touch ourselves with the holy water and remember our own baptism as we enter Mass. So, even in the darkness of death and despair, there is hope. Each time we gather for Mass, as the altar is being prepared for the Eucharistic celebration, we see water and wine mixed together and are reminded that we are united with Christ in His darkest hour, which becomes our brightest hour of hope, because the ultimate covenant has been fulfilled when God was willing to sacrifice Himself for us, even on a cross. Maybe the darkness of the 13th station helps us to see the light and hope that is coming.